Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony here hosting, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Today is Monday, and it is our program Monday Special. In this edition of our program, I have a special guest and a special topic that we will be discussing. Welcome, hit the share button as we go into this Monday Special edition of our program here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Hey, folks, we are having a very special topic. My guest in this edition of Focus on Liberia Monday special is Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson to discuss the topic economic revitalization and governance. How can we govern our country economically, and how can we economically revitalize Liberia or its economy? Very important topic. We need that because I believe that economy is the engine of every nation. If a nation must survive in any way, shape, or form, it must have an economy that works. So we know our economy is not working. How can we make it work? Our guest is saying one of the ways is to make sure that the economy is revitalized and also that we govern economically. At this time, I will welcome my guest, Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson, to the show. Reverend, welcome to Focus on Liberia. It's my pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sid. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
All right, that is our guest there. Again, his name is Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson. He is, folks, let me show you something here quickly. What it is, here we go. Our guest is, he is a Reverend. He has a PhD. He will tell us more about that. He is a humanitarian. He is an author. He's a social scientist as well. But at this time, I will ask my guest to do a little introduction of himself so that my audience can get to know the credentials that he brings to the conversation. So again, welcome. Why are you willing to share so that we can know you a little more?
Oh, thank you. See, I'm Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson. I hail from Harper, Maryland County. Way in the southeast there. We're from the what we call the Seacoast area there from Harper. Mm-hmm. I am a graduate of the RC Laws, and I like to reflect on that because your early education is key to who you become in the future. So I like to highlight that I'm a graduate of the RC Lawson, also of the MBC, the Moravia Bible College in the Painesville area there. And the heart of the matter is also I'm a graduate from the Liberia University, UL, University of Liberia, and also that way I did my my master's in peace and conflict studies, and I went over to the United States where I got my PhD in psychology and counseling, with emphasis in research. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is a very impressive resume. And but you said you are a social scientist, and that is why we thought to reach out to you to discuss the issue of economic governance and how we can revitalize the Liberian economy so that Liberia can survive economically. We don't want that country to die economically. And you are telling us the way to go is to not only revitalize the economy of the country, but that we govern the country economically. So again, we are happy to have you. Let's go into our topic here. First of all, our topic, which is economic revitalization and economic governance. So my first question here is to get to business right away. What is economic revitalization and what is economic governance?
There's something important that I'd like to, first of all, mention that you see, a lot of times when we see people who have the opportunity to speak to Liberians and to proffer views on how Liberia can get better, one of the things we get, the feedback we get from our Liberians, fellow Liberians, is the fact that is this person who's talking have a feel of what the situation is in Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and it doesn't make me happy to mention, but I did go through the 14 years of the Liberian civil crisis, and I consider it to be even more than 14. I lived throughout the Liberian Civil War. I lost my father as a result of the Liberian Civil War, and we lost our livelihood as a result of the Liberian Civil War. I went to high school and through college up to PhD, self-sponsored, not on any government sponsorship. All right, and in the interval, I was able to have contributed meaningfully to my country development as well, both in the private and in the public sector. So when you talk about the economy, I understand where we come from, and I understand the mistakes we've made, and I can see what we are as Liberians can do to take the country forward, provided if we all can come to the table with the right frame of mind. So when we talk about economic viability, revitalization, our concern is that, look, you must admit first that you have a problem, right? Now, if you can admit that you have a problem, then you create the opportunity to find a solution. It's almost like going to, again, I have an education in medicine. Mm-hmm. I am a certified medical assistant. When I was trying to transition to the United States, I had to have something else that I can hold on to. Right. So I became a certified medical assistant in between the time, and also a certified medical electronic medical record specialist. So the issue of playing with data and the issue of playing with planning and other dynamics that come to frame how our country should go, comes very readily to me with my living experience and my education. So yes, Liberia has a problem. Like if you went to the medical doctor, if you didn't address the core of your problem and you just put a band-aid on the sore, obviously it's going to rot, it's going to get infectious, and it's going to harm you. It leads to amputation, sometimes lead to death. So Liberia has a situation right now where we find ourselves in that needs proper consideration of the factors that are affecting us so that we are able to bring solutions to the table. So when I hear economic revitalization and governance, I feel they go hand in hand. They are like twin brother and sister, you know. If you want to help the economy, you have to find out where you are at the moment, and you have to have a good governance platform to go along with your plan to make it come to reality. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so very much there. But I like the way you talk about the other credentials you earn along the way in the medical area, you know, saving life and all that. Economy, in terms of governance, in my opinion, is like a life and death scenario. So with that background and understanding, how important is this economic revitalization that you are talking about? I mean, is it something that we must have in order to have a country, or we may not have it and still do okay? What do you think?
You see, there is this saying that money answereth all things.
Okay.
In other words, biblically speaking, if I were to bring in the Bible for a while, that with money you have the capacity to do what you want to do. With money you have the capacity to become what you want to become. Now, if you look at the economy of Liberia, you find that not Liberia alone is unique to economic burdens. Even the United States, when we just had elections quite recently, the economy made up one of the cardinal point of conversation argument for any presidential candidate. So you will find Donald Trump at the time trying to push that he brought America to the best economic phase you can, if you want to put it that way, for lack of a better word, that he gave America a better economic dynamics than any other president before him. Now you find Biden coming up now to stress that the economy must be revitalized in order for the American society to go back to where it used to be. So obviously you can see that the economy of any nation is the bedrock to its development and to its success. So if we cannot fix the economy as it is right now in Liberia, we will find over the long run that we will continue to have our population like we have in abject poverty. And abject poverty results has many other domino effects. You definitely are going to go to a crisis. If there's a recession, people cannot find food. People cannot maintain their families. Definitely there will be unrest. And when there's unrest, obviously there's no place for peace. And peace and stability is the most important thing for Liberia right now in this fragile state.
Thank you so very much. And so in a way, we are at a crossroad economically, reading while you are sharing here. And so you are saying one of the ways to go is to first come up with something you describe as a national economic strategy. So tell me, what may be, or what is your description of a national economic strategy?
That's a very good point because as a researcher, and like I told you before, I worked in Liberia for over 20 plus years. I own properties in Liberia. In fact, I have two churches that I established and formed in Liberia. I have an elementary school in Liberia. I have a NGO in Liberia. I worked for ELW Hospital as a volunteer for over 3 to 4, 5 years. But the point of the matter is that if you look at Liberia from early time to current, what you will find that we are good at making plans, right? We are good at designing strategies. But I will tell you for a fact, with all of the economic challenges Liberia is undergoing, apart from our development agenda, which is a broader package, we had the poverty reduction strategy before we came and have the now have the proper agenda as they call it today. Despite Chastity had its own vision 2030 prior. All of these
that was 2024. He said
2024. All of these policy documents, strategy documents, are developmental, but they are very broad. All right. What if you were to go and look, search, do your homework, you will find that Liberia, despite we've had this serious, difficult economic squeeze. If I can just remind you, even the African Bank and the World Bank mentioned that Liberia went into recession after our experience with the Ebola. We went into recession where our GDP went down, progression went down to 0.4. Now, one of the things you've never realized is that Liberia has not had the opportunity to sit and say, look, what particularly can we put together as an economic strategy for our country? Forget the bigger picture of a development agenda. What is our economic strategy? And when I mean economic strategy, I'm talking about, for instance, where are we economically? Now, I'm not just saying asking the question like Liberians, we are good at just like talking, but when it comes to the nitty gritty, when it comes to the specifics, that's what we lack. We just talk, but when it comes to the specifics, we lack the details. You find out that we lack tangible data to support most of our claims in our talk. Not data. I've listened to Simon Freeman. I've listened to Samuel Jackson. Those are some of the vocal individuals now about economy in Liberia. And a lot of the times, and if you look at much of my writings, I have a lot of articles out there on Facebook and LinkedIn and things that I write about Liberia. And I'm followed widely. Sometimes I have about 12 to 20,000 followers on my articles. Now, one of the things you will notice that there is a severe lacking in data to support economic decisions, to support economic policy formulation. And in the absence of data, you cannot make those headways. And one of the starting points to begin to capture baseline data is to have a plan. We need an economic plan. We need an economic strategy for Liberia. That strategy will tell us where we are, why we are where we are. All right. And where do we want to go? And how do we get there? economically. I'm not looking at development, just the bigger development picture, but economically, where are we? Why are we where we are? Where do we want to go economically, and how are we intending to get there? That's what comes to mind when I think about economic strategy. And I hope Sam Jackson, Simon Freeman, even Samuel Twer, Minister Twer, and others will hear what we are discussing today and begin to think this.
And so, if I may, you stress the issue of data. In order to formulate a national strategy for economic development in revitalizing the economy and for governance, you said we need data. What has been stopping us collecting the data? Because you emphasize quite clearly, the lacking of data. I mean, why?
When I worked for ELW Hospital as a volunteer from 2003 all the way up to 2010, I was project coordinator, project manager, so to speak, for ELW Hospital. We were coming out of war, and the hospital needed to galvanize resources and organize itself to project itself out there and to attract support. Now, as the project coordinator, you find that when you are NGO driven, when you have a plan, when you have a strategy, that strategy and that plan galvanize and drive you towards accumulation of data. Because the strategy will give you benchmarks. The strategy will give you evidence-based approach to what you do. So, for instance, what do you want to do? You have to support it with data. Now, when you go to how you're doing what you're doing, you have to also support it with data. So when you have data being formulated based on your strategy, then of course you have some level of push. Right now, what I see in Liberia, to be very frank with you, and when I listen to Minister Twe, and the last time Simon Freeman and Sam Jackson, especially Sam Jackson, had a serious confrontation with him on you don't dwell on international data, like World Bank data, African Development Bank data, and to boast of what you're doing locally. Because matter of fact, these guys are just projecting based on assumption. You as the parent entity, you as the host entity must be able to have the platform that feed into international data, or else it's just going to be speculation. And Samuel Jackson was right. Until Samuel Twer and others and our bank governor Williams, until these guys can come to the table and other financial institutions like Liberia can come to the table and begin to produce real hard data, credible data from within our economy, so that feeds the international data that we are receiving outside of our country, we will not make any progress.
Thank you. Again, folks, in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia Monday special with me, Anthony Sear. My guest is Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson. He is a social scientist. He has many hats according to his academic credentials here, but he is proposing something he classifies as economic revitalization and governance as a way forward to moving our country forward. Before we go to our next issue that you raised, which is public autonomous agency, I wanted to say on the issue of the economic strategy for Liberia, you were talking about data. I want to agree with you. Data is important. In fact, I read an article recently that Dr. Tubana Tipote penned, and in that article, he was able to catalog all the projections the World Bank and IFN have made for Liberia. Now, the 9% did not come true. And so the idea that we are counting on these international institutions to tell us the numbers, I think we're missing it. So I couldn't agree with you more that we need to find our own data using our own institutions, training our own people to get accurate data that we can use to formulate national agendas. But let's come to the next issue here, which is the public autonomous agency. You said that one of the ways also that we can revitalize the economy, to provide governance for our people is using our public autonomous agency. What are you talking about here, please?
No, you see, we need to understand our history. All right. When you understand your history, you are able to move forward, making the right decision in the now.
Right.
Now, if you look at a public autonomous agency in Liberia, let me name some for those who are listening.
Yes, please.
Like the National Port Authority, like the RIA, like the Maritime, all right, Liberia Maritime Authority, like LPRC coming to agencies, corporations, the LPRC, Liberian Telecommunication, Liberia Water and Sewer, Liberia Electric, LEC, as we put it, Electric Corporation. Now, these institutions are very vital resource or revenue generating arm of our country over the years. And I would think, I stand to be corrected by anyone out there who may want to oppose my view, but outside of our extractive industry, iron ore, rubber, and gold, stuff like that, these agencies and autonomous agencies are one of the highest revenue generating institutions in our country. But sadly, and the reason why I want to draw attention to our history is because sadly, those institutions have been there to feed individual interests rather than the national good. Keywords to clarify what I meant just now: patronage. Look at William V.S. Tubman time. William Vacalarak Shara Tubman, one of our longest reigning president, and one of those referred to as one of the most successful presidents of our times.
And you and he share something in common, Maryland County.
Maryland County. In fact, I had the opportunity one time after the Civil War to go to see his house in Hapo. The guy built a modern house in dark ages in Liberia. But what I'm driving at here is that when you look at these autonomous agencies, the way in which they were framed to feed into the presidency as the president's, what I call the president good gesture bag. So patronage was high. So which means that those autonomous agencies did not have strong accountability, did not have strong transparency. And so and because we have superior presidency in Liberia, the president will use those autonomous agencies as a means of giving handouts to public officials and others to control them. And so our revenue and our national budget was not very strongly supported by those generating arms of revenue in our country. Now, again, I want to be very careful how I thread this line, because there will be some who, having had this conversation, very look at this issue very carefully, and right now they are like having the eyes like I'm doing now, like, okay, what is he talking about? But let me say this for a fact: do we have strong data to show what NPA is worth? Do we have strong data to show what RIA is worth? Do we have strong data to show what Maritime Bureau or Maritime, as we have the authority, the Maritime Authority, what it's worth in terms of the value it brings to our national budget, the value it brings to our national economy? I'm not talking about people just quoting figures. I mean hard data, empirical data to show this is what these autonomous agencies are generating, and this is how you're affecting our economy. Yeah.
Now, Pearson, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think the audience will agree with you. The essentiality of data in formulating national policy. We can't beat that, any harder than we have done. The question I'm asking: how are public autonomous agency essential to economic governance? How can we use these institutions for Liberia to experience economic growth that we are not doing?
Now, first of all, and first and foremost, I strongly believe that there has to be a step up in transparency of how those autonomous agencies are run. How are their budgets formulated? Who are they answerable to? To what degree is the answerability beneficial to the country? And the reason I'm asking this question is that we can have this conversation for the next 5, 6, 7 hours and 5, 6, 7 years. If we cannot put our finger on what are the budget indicators of this autonomous agency? Who decide how the fundings are utilized? Where do the fundings go? We talk about budget harmonization, right? You remember this government, one of the Samuel Tuesek is a contractionary economy policy, fiscal policy, contractionary. We mean the drawing down, cutting costs, minimizing. That brought in the harmonization. Did the harmonization we talked about so lengthily in Liberia, did it affect autonomous agency? How much money does board of directors acquire from our autonomous agency? What is the balance between the salaries of autonomous agency employees and managing directors and others as compared to public servants in general? Those are questions, those are hard questions we must ask. And the reason I'm saying this is because if we can manage those, we can save a lot to help Liberia become self-reliant when it comes to national development.
Thank you. So my next question would be, have we been able to revitalize our economy through autonomous agency at any time in the past? Or this is just the same path of not being able to use them effectively to revitalize our economy?
I think we're not using them effectively. I think we are not taking advantage of the fact that those are our strong arms. And I know we're going to come to agriculture, industry, technology.
Right, we will.
You will be listening and be concerned that we're not touching. We're talking about small business entrepreneurship. I know our views will be concerned about that, but we're talking now about autonomous agency. Now, let me say this for a fact. The National Port Authority alone is a very strong revenue generating agency in Liberia. What I'm saying to you, see, is that, look, listen, let us pause for a while. Let us ask some hard question. How has these autonomous agencies been run in the past? What has been some of our weaknesses in those agencies in terms of managing them? How have they contributed meaningfully to national development and our national budget on an annual basis? How have they? How does their budget match up to our national budget? I'm not talking about the ones they choose to show to us. I know Liberia. I lived there all my life. I'm not talking about the one you put on paper and show to Liberian people. I'm talking about the ones that you use in the background that drive the entity. Those are hard questions. And what I'm saying to you, in governance, we need to be able to have policies and plans and strategies that will answer those hard questions. To make those, so if there are leakages, if there are cracks, we can seal them, we can mitigate them. And then the overages that are being squandered by individuals on personal basis can be redirected towards saving our fragile economy.
Thank you so very much, folks. In cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. It's Monday. This is our Monday special. We are in conversation with Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson. Our topic we are discussing is economic revitalizations and governance in Liberia. And he has outlined some measures that we can use in trying to revitalize the Liberian economy so that the country can be governed well economically. And one of those that we are about to discuss now is he talked about financially gainful ministries and agencies. There are some ministries and agencies, according to him, that are, bringing the money in, they're making money. But how are we using these institutions for the revitalization and the economic governance of our country? And talking about this is the question I'm asking. Why are our financially gainful ministries and agencies? Let us know, why are those ministries and agents, first of all, and then I can come up with my next question. So tell us, me and my audience, why are those financially gainful ministries and agencies that you're talking about?
Now, it's important to mention that we have the cardinal arm, and we have those who have the cardinal arm is the LRA, Liberia Revenue Authority. Okay. And Liberia Revenue Authority, I must admit, looking at the numbers from my research, they are doing well. Considering that pre-WIA days, the pre-WIA administration, Liberia was kind of like driven by donor support. All right, majority of our resources that we had to sustain our economy came from donor support. Under this regime, the donors have phased out for the most part. A lot of those concessions that we had that we call billions in those days are non-existent for the most part right now in Liberia. Some of them are pulled out, other of them are scaled down. So Liberia Revenue Authority has been trying to bridge that gap that we've had. As a matter of fact, when those like UNMIL left and NGOs shut down, donor funds are not as available as it used to be. So I agree. LRA is doing to some extent is doing its best. But again, you know Liberia, I know Liberia. I was in Liberia in November and December this year, last year, just before this year. I was there in November and December. And I said this to you. Because I have businesses there, I had to go do some business registration and other things. Even went to go and renew my Liberian passport. Listen, there was nowhere in Liberia that I went, even to renew my driver's license, that I did not have bottlenecks. I mean, bottlenecks, people wanting something from you.
And what are some of the things they ask for?
And money. Now, do
they call it money or they call it cold water?
Cold water, whatever they call it. Find me something. Now, the reason I bring this up is that, now, it may sound simple, but the fact that people engage you for kickbacks before the actual work is done suggests something to the critical mind of someone like myself who's talking about economic revitalization and governance. The first thing that brings to my mind is that if that is happening at the small scale level, what's happening at the larger scale level? What's happening at the top? And one of the things you need to realize also is that when you see these things happening, then you start to think about how much of what we're supposed to be generating as income for Liberia is falling through the cracks because someone is taking something less than what the country deserves. You know, and so these are that's the reason why when you hear me talk about having a national economic strategy, I'm saying to us that look, there has to be a game plan. Not just a national development game plan. There has to be an economic game plan that tells us where we are, that tells us why we're there in the first place, and find where we want to go to, and find out how we can get there. And this will be some of the things we're going to now looking at the other agencies that are LRA, right? Look at the Ministry of Education. Look at the Ministry of Agriculture. Look at the Ministry of Lands, Mines and Energy. Look at the Ministry of Information. Now, these ministries are not said to be, quote unquote, generating arms of government. But all of these ministries, even the Foreign Affairs Ministry that do the passport and all that kind of thing, all of these institutions, government ministries and agencies, majority are fund generating. But what we do not hear is that how are those funds that are being generated contribute towards national development? Where do they go to? How are they processed? How are they guided? Who make determinations? Who decide as to, okay, from the passport division, money that is being generated, how is it managed? Where does it go to? How do we account for it? Now, again, I want to be fair with you. There will be counter argument of some that say, oh yeah, you know, there are documents to show that these monies are put here and they are put there. But my question to you would be, do we have visible data? Do we have annual visible data to show, okay, on passport, just for instance, before I left for Liberia in November, you find this very interesting. I applied for my passport while in America because my passport expired. I paid for an expedited passport. I went to New York to get my passport, was not available because they are not coming from Liberia yet. So I ended up paying for laissez-passer. And expedited that one too. It took me more than an expedited 1 day processing fee or processing time. The bottom line is I pay over $500 for the whole process, including transportation to get to New York and everything. I pay over $500. And then I still have to go to Liberia before I could get the passport. Now, So it means it tells you that these institutions are making money. But the fact of the matter is that how are we tracking those? It may not seem big of a funds when you look at those of us who play with big money, but as meager as Liberia is in terms of its resources, how can we put our finger on every dime to ensure that those dimes are properly governed so that the impact of those generated funds are fed into our national development agenda? That's my concern. That's one part. The second part is that when you want to look at institutions that are generating resources in Liberia, you also want to look at take into consideration like the Forestry Development Agency. Now, listen, these institutions are making a lot of money from our locals to begin with, in terms of permits, in terms of permit to have this done, to mine gold, to mine that. They make a lot of money to cultivate timber and things. They make money to run timber institutions. They make money, but where are these monies going to? That's my concern.
All right.
Economic revitalization. Where these funds going? There has to be data to show us where these funds are going to.
Thank you. He wants data to show how much the institutions are making. And if we get consistent data, maybe we can see, knowing what those data are, we can decide what to do.
Can I
Another thing you said.
Can I just throw in something quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Now, look at our national budget, right?
Every year, that. We'll come to that.
Yeah. Every year, I just want to say, every year we cast national budget, right? And then every year we show monies that are going to service these different institutions, right? Mm-hmm. Like Ministry of this, Ministry of that, Ministry of the other one. Now, we show monies that are being sent to fund all of these institutions, but we never mention, correct me if I'm wrong, you never hear mention of how those institutions and the resources that they collect come back to support their budget request.
Well, I can't argue with that. That is true. I mean, what the budgets can't even tell us, the sources of funding, of generation of revenue. Let's see what is coming from education. I mean, if education, just example now, if education is generating any revenue, but let us see how much is coming from LPRC, or if it will not be reflected in the budget, let them give us a yearly report or quarterly report as how much these institutions are making in profit, if they are making profit, so that at the end of the year, we know how much they have been contributing, and let us have that record year by year so that we'll know how financially stable they are. Focus on Liberia, Anthony is hosting. I have with me Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson here, and we are discussing how to revitalize Liberia's economy, and we're also talking about economic governance of Liberia. He has a lot of suggestions, one of which is what he described as economic enablers. There are things that he called economic enablers. He said we can use these things to revitalize the Liberian economy and also govern the country economically. So talking about economic enablers, he said we can revitalize the economy through education and technology. I don't know how we're going to do that. He's the guy who knows. And so, it's my question. Starting with education and technology, how are we not using these sectors to revitalize the Liberian economy? How are we not using these sectors?
Now, I have been in Liberia. I've seen us try, right, to strengthen education. In fact, I started being a classroom teacher from 1994, 95 when I come out of high school.
Okay.
Like I told you earlier, I established 2 academic programs now in Liberia, 2 elementary schools in Liberia. The Emmanuel Christian Academy on the SD Cooper Road and the Grace United Christian Academy at the ELWA Junction. I've taught at one or two of our universities in Liberia. Now, when I think about education and how it's going to help our economy, is because listen, when I sat with at ELWA Hospital, and then I went on to open my own NGO called Shalom Liberia. It's very viable. Go online and look for Shalom Liberia. You will find out that Shalom Liberia is one of the fastest growing all Liberian community-based NGO in Liberia between 2010 and down to 2015, 2020. And the reason for that is that we had plans, we have strategies, we have data, and then we attracted donor support. But having said that, one of the things I saw while working in the NGO sector was that, listen, my brother, Liberians will be in an international NGO setting and they bring a Ghanaian as the country rep. They bring an Indian as a country rep. They bring an American as a country rep. You go over to any other little NGO that they're trying to run. When they bring in consultants, they bring in foreign nationals. My question has always been, where are the Liberian educated ones that are able to contribute meaningfully to their own economy? The fact of the matter here, the bottom line is that to improve your economy, to boost your economy, you have to empower your own people. Because if I'm educated enough to be able to represent my country's interests, and I'm capacitated financially, all my generations behind me will be also financially capacitated. So we look at our education and we condemn our education. Ellen Johnson called it a mess at the time I was there. All right. So we find that our education is weak. I think for us to improve on our economy, we need to focus on the education of our young people in a way that is strategic. Let's look for opportunities. What are those economic viable disciplines that can reshape Liberia? For example, we started doing very well in area of medicine. Liberia has a lot of Liberian trained doctors right now, if you're following, through AME Dr. College. All right, where they had this program where you went to LU and then they transfer you to AME and they give you some scholarship, free tuition, other kind of things, and you benefit from there. You become a medical doctor through Liberia. Now Liberia have improved in that area. How can we remodel that in other areas? And one of the other areas I'm strongly thinking about is the industry area that has to do with technology and extractive industry. Those areas that you need technocrats. Can Liberia train people in those areas? And when I mean train, I know some gonna default me on this, but I'm gonna say it anyhow because I'm radical when it comes to reforming Liberia economic platform. I'm now beginning to feel very disenchanted when it comes to taking Liberians out of Liberia and bringing them abroad for training. Because a lot of the time, Liberians are brought abroad for training and they do not come back to service the country. And the reason is simple. Benefits that will attract them to stay in the country after they have gained the experience when they go outside, they are not there. So they get educated and then they stay where they are because they find opportunities better than what's home. Second, a lot of the time, opportunities for Liberia in terms of educating people abroad is driven by political interest. So for instance, one practical situation I had was when we had John Molu at the audit, the Bureau of Audit. All right, Molu was there. He sent some guys to be trained. Those guys were coming back right after Ellen had replaced him, and those guys could not get incorporated into the new administration. You know the reason why? Because they said he was loyal to Molu. So they lost out on that investment. So what I'm thinking here is that, look, Liberia, we have the University of Liberia. We have the Tubman University in Maryland County. All right. We have other institutions in Liberia that are there. Let us strengthen those institutions. At one point in time, I heard it say,
and Dr. Pearson, may I interject here?
Yes,
you know, I get what you are saying. You are saying, look, if we have to revitalize the economy, we must do it through, specialized training. Our education should be more career driven, more than just people acquiring terminal degrees here and there. Let's give people technical skills that will give them profession that they are able to use to intervene in the economy right away. And you are even saying further that we shouldn't send anybody abroad anymore. Because doing so, we're taking money out of the country. We can use that money to, first of all, build our institutions, train our own teachers, train Liberians here who, when they graduate, will be going into the community or in the different sectors to be able to start a business or whatever it might be. So let me ask you this specific question. You're talking technology and education. What are some specific professions that you think we need right now in the area of technology and education on a general basis, to get Liberia working, to put Liberians to work, that we need to play emphasis on right now?
Now, I'm very impressed with our Liberian own technological institutions now, training institutions in Liberia, like STARS, and there are others who have carried some technological companies to Liberia that are Liberians. They are trying, they are building some platforms. I would think in my mind that they should be supported. I should think in my mind that STARS Technology and other institutions that have technological capacity for training should not be struggling on their own and depending on financial resources from students to run the institution. I think government should step in, like I'm saying, instead of spending millions of dollars abroad paying foreign school fees, spend it in these institutions. Bring experts down. Bring the equipments that are needed. Bring the facility, because what Liberia education system lack are the basic tools and equipments that we need, the equipment that we need rather, to make that our academic situation strong. Laboratories, libraries. So you have STARS, all right. You have Ghana right next door. Ghana right next door, Kenya a little bit farther from us, but these are areas that Africans are making headways in technology. How can we build that link between institutions that will strengthen our own institutions, not by depending not by depending on student tuitions, but depending on government subsidies. All right. Now let me say this: you talk about areas, software development, economic management, software development, communication platforms. All right. Now we're talking about digitizing now our economy, right? We're talking about going digital economy. How are we preparing Liberia so that credit companies,
folks in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony here hosting. This is Monday special. We are in conversation with Reverend Dr. Clarence Pearson. He's our guest, and in this edition of Monday special here, Focus on Liberia, our topic for discussion is economic revitalization and economic governance for Liberia. It seems to be we have some technical issue there at the end of our guest. He will join us, stay with us, and let me show to you what we have been discussing. We started with discussing an economic strategy for Liberia. He said we need a national economic strategy for Liberia. All right, let us decide what we need as a country in terms of economic development. All right, he is saying we need to revitalize the Liberian economy. And then we also talk about how we can use our public autonomous agency, to revitalize our economy. And from there, we went to financially gainful ministries and agencies. He listed a few of them. And now we are on economic enablers. And by economic enablers, he's talking about things like education, technology, agriculture, manufacturing, industry, and banking. And he's back with us. We're going to continue with this segment. He was concluding on how we can revitalize Liberian economy through education and technology. Welcome back, Dad. Let's continue.
Sorry, I lost you there for a while. But so what am I talking about is that, look, we need to incentivize the Liberians so that they are interested in those areas that we need them to get active in. For instance, can we make STARS Technology, all right, one of those institutions that are supported to the extent that kids that are of certain high IQ, I would say, or high performance students Can we have them on government scholarship, government programs? Can we give them a free tuition program for technology development? Can we look at agriculture, for instance, in education at the Ministry of Agriculture, and linking it to that of the University of Liberia? Can we make agriculture, a completely tuition-free college? Can we link the Ministry of Agriculture with the University of Liberia Agriculture Department so that we don't just have quote unquote, I've seen in the past when I was there, because I went to the Fender campus 2 times to speak to the Agriculture College as guests, all right, for some of the programs I have for the students. Let's leave the formality. Let's go to the reality. Can Liberia have, and we're going to get there, a viable economic a strategy that includes agriculture that will build the linkage between the UL, CARI, and the University of Liberia to that the Ministry of Agriculture? No, so what I'm saying in short is that, look, education in Liberia has to be more development driven. We have to look for, okay, what do we need to shift the dynamics of our economy in terms of industry, manufacturing, and other areas, and how do we use our education system to address those needs? Again, I will not have all the answers. I don't want to claim that I have all the answers considering this point, but I'm saying to us, if we have a strategy, the strategy will give us an opportunity to play around having all of those answers. But I'm just bringing to you onto the platform the awareness that, look, listen, technology and education are enablers of any economy. We cannot have a broken education system, and we cannot have a weak technological advancement in our country and expect our economy to be viable. It's not going to work. And how do we do that? Strengthen existing institutions, incentivize and create motivation for young people to desire these areas. And when they desire these areas, make their learning process accessible and free.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Pearson, let's come to agriculture, something you also put in the category of economic enablers. And I guess you're trying to say, hey, these are the things that will enable the economy to be revitalized, and then we can experience a sound economic governance. And on that, I am asking this question. What could we be doing through agriculture for economic governance that we are not doing? What are the things that we could be doing right now through agriculture to revitalize the Liberian economy?
I'll tell you a real life experience. While I was at ELW Hospital. So one of the projects we had was agriculture project. We have farms, and the farm was supported by Ministry of Agriculture, supported by UNICEF and others. And there was a day we went to Bentol, to the superintendent office. At the time, it was Superintendent Grace Kwang. I don't know if you know Grace.
I heard that name, but I don't know her.
And fortunately for me, she's the wife of one of the pastors, the lead pastors in the greater. I don't want to go that way. Let me leave the personal life, but yeah. She was a good friend of mine. All right, from RC Lawson. But the fact of the matter, we went to this meeting, and we sit now, and we have all the stakeholders on this panel, and those of us who are engaged in agriculture at the time with agricultural projects, local driven institutions. We're sitting in this meeting and we're discussing millions of dollars that was about to come into Liberia. And the money's coming to Liberia at the time. We were there to discuss how to infuse that money into the agricultural sector. And I'm sitting with my friend, peace be to her, Patty Chong. She was the executive director of my institution at the time. I'm sitting with her and we're listening. And being one of the active agriculture institution at the time, from the NGO standpoint, I'm listening, and then these guys are talking about ministers, other NGO. They are talking about strengthening small farm holders in terms of backyard gardening. why using millions of dollars they want to strengthen backyard garden? So they call it small farming. Like, back in the day, we like do 4 acres, 5 acres, or 3 acres, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I put my hand up, and then I'm recognized, and I'm asked, yeah, Reverend Pearson, what do you say? I'm saying, why are we discussing backyard gardening as an agriculture strategy for a country that is coming out of war, that is not sufficient in its own food production, that is not sufficient in no good road network or anything? Why are we discussing backyard gardens when we can start discussing mechanized farming? A roaster in the group, the superintendent at the time, she look at the agriculture minister look at the minister, they look at each other, and then they call it recess. And then we went back, and then one of the ministers called me and said, Reverend Pearson, he said, you run one of the most viable agricultural program right now for your organization. I said, yes. He said, what are you suggesting? Are you saying we should take the money from you? And I'm shocked. I'm like, seriously, I am a young man who lost his father in the Liberian Civil War, whose mother was, completely disabled. I am the firstborn from 7 children. I put myself through high school. I put myself through college until I've acquired the level of education I've acquired. I know what it means for Liberia to be struggling. I am looking at you planning for Liberia and looking at backyard gardening as opposed to giving Liberia an agriculture dimension that take the country to self-sufficiency. And then the question I'm asked, are you saying we should take the money from you, the funding from you and the other NGOs here and start making big farms? I'm saying no. I say no, Mr. Minister. I said, what I'm saying in short is that I want us to divide Liberia into different agricultural zones. I want us to prioritize certain crops that are viable when it comes to exportation. I want us to be able to decide what is it that we want to do with self-sufficiency. What are those crops, food that we need to make it self-sufficient for us, so that Liberia will not be relying on importing rest every now and then from outside, from China and other places. I'm talking about how can we make Liberia potent. Don't give me hoe and cutlasses. Don't give me shovels. Don't give me small seeds. I'm saying give me machineries. Give me processing plants.
Think big.
Yeah, that's I'm saying.
Big, do big, move big.
I'm saying we're talking big money here. So with this big money, in fact, let it even hold the millions. Let it bring us tractors. Let them bring us the machineries that we need. Let them hold the money. Let them build us the storage that we need in strategic location across the country. Storage. Liberia has food. Liberia has food. What we do not have is the skill to preserve the food, the skills to process the food, the opportunity to make our production viable over a long period of time.
That's where the technology comes in, Mr. Pearson, and you're talking about revitalizing through technology. That's where the technology comes in.
The time you take to give a whole town hoe and cutlasses, you can have an agriculture zone that share tractors, that share heavy machineries, that have centralized a processing plant for their rice, that have
and storage factories of facilities.
That's what I'm saying. Have those. I'm not saying give each farmer one of those things. I'm saying have a corporate mindset. Bring Liberian farmer in as holders, shareholders into the business. Give Liberians a share in what they have. Look, this whole agriculture district is responsible for this kind of a crop, and you have a storage for that purpose. You have processing plant for that purpose. You have manufacturing plant for things that you're gonna be producing that needs to be manufactured and exported. You have farm to market facility. You have loan to support what you want to do. Your family will have a lifetime sustainability from what you're going to be doing, because this is going to benefit you for the rest of your lives. Not backyard garden.
Oh yeah,
And the
that
last,
then we might turn Liberia into an industry-driven
no,
economy that we need so that we can be able to produce. Thank you so very much, Mr. Pearson. And because of time, let's squeeze in one more segment, and then we'll bring in our audience here with their questions. One of the options that you are proposing is that look, let's revitalize Liberia's economy through the national budget. Let budget differently. Let budgeting be done in the way that revitalizes our economy and enhances economic governance. And so, on that note, I am asking you this question on budgeting. How can our national budgeting be done, all right, to revitalize the Liberian economy? Because if you come to think about it, we've been budgeting in this line. When I look at the budget from early time, it's the same thing. They just changing numbers here and there. And Liberia, the Liberian economy is yet to get revitalized. So why are you proposing? How can we do it differently?
Look, interestingly, I'm one of those who comes to discussion with critical thinking. And let me say flat out, we need to rethink our budget strategy. I mean, 360-degree rethink. Our national budget strategy is premised on what I call, from my technical expertise, a dead budget. A dead budget, meaning majority of what, up to close to 90 to 95% of what we put into the budget does not yield any dividends. We need a budget in Liberia that is live, what I call live budget that yields dividends. So what am I saying in short? So if the last time I did an article out there and I projected our budget analysis, where you have majority of our budget going towards salary, stationaries, I mean things that will not generate any useful dividend to us. Then you look at agriculture and education, meager, very small portion of our economy budget towards those areas. What am I saying in short? Listen, for Liberia to get better, you need to spend more on education. For Liberia to get better, you need to spend more on agriculture. Do you know that in your current budget, that monies you spent on things that will not yield any results, tangible dividends to your country, is more than 90%? And education is under what, 10%, under 20%. Agriculture is under 25% investment of the national budget.
No, agriculture is even under 10%. According to I think they call it Mampuka Declaration.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Liberia or the countries in Africa, if they want to be self-sufficient in food production, to be on that path, we must spend at least 10%. And our governments have not been able to budget 10% for agriculture, which is sad.
No. And this is what, look, listen, this is what your budget should do, right? In any developed country, your budget must be able to when it get out there, your budget should be able to stimulate growth in a way that it does not only jump out there for the 12 months or so you put it out there and then you eat all the money and then the money finish, go look for a new one. Your budget should be able to turn over and bring you yields. For instance, if you invest in education and you empower a young man or a young woman and give her the requisite education she needs, she's going to graduate and find a job. And when she graduates and finds a job, she's going to increase her spending power. And when he or she increases her spending power, her livelihood will improve. When her livelihood improves, poverty is reduced. The same thing with agriculture. If you spend more in agriculture, you're going to yield dividends. In other words, if the government decides, you know what happened, we're going to have a national economic strategy that focuses on agriculture as one of our key indicators, and we're going to pump money into agriculture, I'm saying to you, the money you pump in agriculture, you're going to get it even more than what you put in. So the budget becomes dividend yielding. It becomes profitable to the nation. rather than you just focus on, let's buy cars. Now, I'm not saying building roads is bad. Majority of the roads we're building in Liberia, is donor funded projects. I'm talking about spending our revenue on those things that will give us yield: agriculture, education, technology. Spend money on those things. Spend money on those things. And that's why I get so frustrated with Liberian opposition politicians. Liberian opposition politicians are those who sit down and complain all day. They only quote unquote shift blames. They are not concerned about improving private sector as well, because there has to be a complementary arm to government. Government cannot employ everybody in the country. Government cannot be the highest employer of any country. We need to have, instead of opposition politicians just crying whole day, government not doing anything, government not doing this, we have people who claim to be viable economists. We have people who claim to be wealthy in opposition. What are they investing in the economy to create jobs for Liberians that are graduating almost every year? 20, 30, 200, 300 Liberians graduating with terminal degrees. Where are the jobs for them? Where all of them going government? So we have a militarized youth because they are just driven to politics. The only thing our youth can do is, say, muya, or, those kind of battle cries, when they actually should be focusing on those educational indicators, those technological skills that they need to be able to contribute meaningfully to their society. But the opportunities are not there. Opportunities are not there. So let me give for example, Bena Yuri, God forgive me, and I'm not trying to be personal. It's an agriculturist. You know that, right? He has a farm.
I do. He has a farm.
He has a farm. How many persons have been in our farm employed? As a top lead politician in the country, how many persons are employed on Bena UF farm? I'm saying, short, how viable is this investment in agriculture that have drawn out of our agriculture college students?
But Mr. Pearson, are you trying to say that, to be for an opposition politician or to have?
No, let me
Go ahead. Something happened at his end. I was just trying to say, in order to be an opposition, yeah.
Are we there?
Yeah, you are here, but your internet dropped somehow, so you froze for some time. But go ahead, make your point.
So at the same time, I was telling someone, listen, if Alexander Cummings is here to have money and to be an astute businessman, where is his investment? I'm not talking about handouts. I'm not talking about going from counter to counter, getting poor rest, getting poor money, getting poor small. I'm talking about what is the gainful employability of his investment to the youth and the young people that would drive them from university into the fields of expertise. Now, I'm not holding them hostage.
Mr. Pearson, the question I wanted to ask is that, is it a requirement that if you must be an opposition and you need to have a business before you can have the right to speak on national issues? No. I mean, after all the government in power, I don't see where those guys that in power now have businesses employing Liberians for which the Liberian people elected them. So I don't know why you're bringing this up. What's the significance?
That's why if you follow my different articles that I have, you find one of the things I talk about is political reform in Liberia. I be strongly on that. Now let me say this. I'm not picking on opposition politicians. I'm just being realistic here. And what I'm saying here is that, look, listen, if you are big names in the country, if you are big names in the country's politics, if you claim you have vested interest,
well, some may be big names only for politics and not business, right?
Listen, my brother, politics comes with responsibility. When you want to get into politics, you tell people that you are interested in the country moving forward. And you are not satisfied sitting in the background and seeing things run. You want to run things yourself. I'm saying you should come with verifiable references to how you've helped the country to give us an understanding as to what you will do even when you get there.
Are you talking about policy descriptions and not only that they should be able to have businesses and employ people? Or are you talking about both?
I'm talking about both. Now, let me say this. First of all, sitting before you right now on this public media, I have the voice to speak to you because I am heavily vested in Liberia. I don't boast about it though, but I'm heavily vested in Liberia. I have the COVID stuff, the COVID that just happened. My church was involved in production of face masks, even before Liberian government even did anything. My church was involved in distribution of food aid, even before Liberian government had done anything. While they were still discussing policy to get food aid, my church already distributing food aid. My church already doing awareness in the community before government even start getting into full swing on the issue.
Mr. Pearson, you have to come back here so that we can talk about your church, the foundation, and all the work and your NGO. We can talk about that.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, short, is that listen, it gives me a moral justification to come and query why others are not doing what they are doing, because I am already contributing.
I agree. You have a point there. Yeah. You are in the right place to call them to actions on these issues that will help revive the Liberian economy, create what some bold people will call employability for other people. I don't like to use that word anyway. Let's read some comments from folks following us here. I focus on Liberia. Let's read some comments here. Folks, get your comments coming in. We are about to read them. Let's see the first one here. Let me read some comment quickly while we get our guests a little break. And this one is from Emmanuel Zaza. Good afternoon from my area. It is true that Brennan J. Samuka, one of the newly elected senator of the CPP, has been found guilty by the Supreme Court of Liberia. Yes, it is true. I read that article before coming live. He was sentenced for the punishment is 2 years imprisonment and the restitution of 1.4 million United States dollars. That's money that they has used for purposes not intended according to the court. Let's see this one here from Eugenia Ja. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to you, Eugenia. Queenie Collins, hello there. Let's see Queenie again. Generating arms for economic growth means supporting small businesses and foreign direct investment. Yes, we have that on our outline here. Very good point, but we'll not get to all that because of time. We will make arrangement for our guests to come back so we can exhaust the very detailed outline that he gave us that will help us to revitalize the nation's economy. Data-driven results. You couldn't have nailed it like somebody nailing something in a coffin. This man is making great sense. Yes, he does. Queenie again, especially technology. Yes, technology. We need to digitize the Liberian economy. We need to make sure all the government agencies and ministries that we can pay for things online so that that money cannot go into somebody's pocket. That is what our guest is saying. We have Paul here writing the guest points are absolutely right. Let's see from Paul again. Liberia as a country need a complete overhaul. We need to start from scratch. No, I disagree on that one. We can build on the little we have, revitalize those ones, and we can make progress. Let's see this one from Capet. Great point. I don't know which point you're talking about, Capet. This is a long run here from Zeze. But education and technology is crucial, dog. I don't know what you mean. Education and technology, but Liberia is not going to go anywhere if we fail to feed ourselves. I'm talking about modernized farming. There is no freedom in Liberia if Liberians cannot feed themselves. I make the case as a son of a farmer. The food you eat is spiritual in nature. Food is sacred, he said. Studies have shown time and again that the lack of food production in our country is contributing factor for the level of poverty we are experiencing in Liberia. Take our neighbors, maybe for example. Let me see this one from Zeze again. He said macro loan is the gateway to sustainable agriculture. How can agriculture be under 10% and we expect to be self-sufficient in food production? We need an agriculture budget of more than 20% per annum, 66% of the exportable products from the agriculture, for an example, is generated from agriculture. True, I live in the agriculture. I know how that place is industrious when it comes to agriculture. Samuel B. Jacobs writes, thanks to the guest, I trust his ability. All right, we will test that ability sometime. Jimmy Eastman, an affiliate of Focus on Liberia, writes, has your guest had conversation with the current Minister of Agriculture? The current Minister of Agriculture, Focus on Liberia, made efforts to bring her here to answer questions. She took the back door. We will resume that effort. She needs to talk to her. I read an article in which the president was congratulating her for some work she's doing. That work is now visible to Anthony C. I am the watchdog of the society. She needs to come here and answer some questions. Samuel B. Jacobs, again, just started following, but I know his ability. All right. Thank you for knowing his ability. I hope our guest did not send you here to blow his trumpet. That is why we made arrangement to him. I mean, with him for him to come back here for us to have a greater discussion on his work that he has been doing in Liberia. A few comments there, Mr. Pearson. Your reaction to the comments that you just listened to?
I think they would have said it better. Liberia deserve better, my brother. Liberia deserve better. Right now, our economy is of such that we don't even know what's the size of our economy. You know, I listen to Samuel Twain, I listen to others, and I'm like, you know, listen. I said this to Samuel Jackson. Look, what is the size of our economy? We're talking with a few times we've been struggling with inflation, no money in the bank, and talking about printing money. And I'm writing an article. I'm asking, okay, wait, what is the size of the economy? You know, how can you just keep printing money? You know, you just want to keep printing money, but it's that you're trying to fit a drum that you don't know the size of the drum.
Or probably the drum has a hole in it. You haven't patched that hole yet, and then you are just filling it with water.
We have to be data driven. We have to know precisely what is it that we want. Why do we want it in the first place? Why do we need it? And how can we get it done? And that will not happen in the absence of a strategy, my brother. Now, let me say this for a fact. In 2019 alone, our export was 882 million United States dollars export. Our import, 3 billion.
Wow.
3 billion. Then the gas, what they call the trade balance. And then when you look at the trade balance, we were at deficit $2.1 billion. Meaning, say, I'm gonna say in Liberia, say you eat more than you earn.
Yeah.
That's the kind of economy we're running. And why is it happening this way? Because we do not have an economic strategy. There has to be an economic strategy that will address the kind of cardinal data that are coming out. Okay, so we have an economy that we exporting about 800 million to the outside world to generate hard currency, right? For money to come in. But at the same time, we're sending money outside up to 3 billion. Then we're looking for money. We're asking where is the money?
Oh, wow. Well, Mr. Pearson, I mean, we can't thank you enough. I wish we have more time to have completed, our outline here. I wish we have more time, to have completed that. But you are available as always. I will reach out to you. We need to keep the conversation going. Folks in cyberspace, Anthony C. Focus on Liberia. There has been our Monday special. Let's bring you some advertisement here quickly so we can get a parting statement from our guest. Coming on tomorrow here, I focus on Liberia on the hour of politics. The battle for the soul of Liberty Party. My guest, Axel Jackson. Axel Jackson is the founding spokesman of the opposition Liberty Party. As many of you are aware, the Liberty Party is in some kind of leadership trouble there. They elected a chairman, and that chairman is on fire for accusations against his character for some money palaver. Isaac Jackson is one of the founding leaders who is saying we want that guy out because his presence has tinted the image of our institution. Isaac Jackson will be here tomorrow on the Hour of Politics. My favorite show here, I focus on Liberia. I have some political bitter ball for him, and I will make sure that he chew those ones and he swallow them all. He's here to make the case for the battle for the soul of the opposition Liberty Party. You do not want to miss it. Also, on Focus on Liberia coming on Friday, February the 19th, 2021 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. A fundraiser will be here to raise $8,000. The person who is the brain behind it is Yasa Lavla. She is the founder of an institution called MABI. It is an institution in Liberia that is helping with maternal health, helping poor women to give birth freely, and those who don't have money so that they can be able to make babies, for not babies actually, not to born children who will be able to serve Liberia. You were born by a woman and you know how it is. So she will be here, we'll be raising some funds. I hope you can be part of that. That will do it for our advertisement. I understand from management here that Jonathan Bocha Sigbe will also be here, focus on Liberia, Wednesday, I believe at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and he will be asking some questions on government issue. Well, Mr. Pearson, again, we can't thank you enough for sharing your expertise, your suggestions on these issues of governance, especially how we can revitalize the Liberian economy so that the country can be governed soundly economically. We can't thank you enough. Your parting statement, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, though. But it's interesting. The best I can say right now, look, Liberia, to move forward instead of on the social media going back and forth with each other, sit down, develop a national economic strategy. I know you have a proper agenda. I know you have a development agenda, but we need to tackle the economic challenge of Liberia strategically. Sit down, have a round table, develop a national strategic framework for your economy. Another thing you need to do in summary is, look, make sure, by all means, bring people, especially Liberians who have the expertise and have the desire to see this country move forward. Bring them forward. Encourage them even in the diaspora. Bring them forward. This is no time for party politics or opposition and ruling party. This is a time that all of us must come together, put our hands together, and move our country forward. There's no amount of bickering and complaining will take Liberia forward except for planning. So that with that planning can come baseline data, and then that baseline data will drive cumulative data to tell us where we're going to and define our future for tomorrow. And I thank you for having me, see it. I wish you had more time to go into detail.
And certainly we can reach out to you, and you yourself do not hesitate to call our attention. Hey, you say you are going to get back to us. Can we do this again? Liberia is the only country someone continues to remind us that we cannot be deported for, because that is the country given to us by the God Almighty. And I'm glad the Reverend will agree with that as well. That country is in trouble economically. It needs economic revitalization, resuscitation, and recalibration. Do you agree with me? And I'm sure you do. And that is why all hands must be on deck, all ideas must be brought to bed and on the table. And that is why we should talk Liberia with ideas. The bullets have sent silence, but we see these bullets in different forms, in poverty, in disease. The only way we can solve these problems, to bring all the ideas we have, for we are endowed with them abundantly. But our problem has been to coordinate. Someone told me you find all the partnership. I mean, you find all the something, but there is no partnership in Liberia. I mean, he said you find all the shapes in Liberia, relationship you can find in Liberia. But there's one thing that is lacking. That is partnership. Can we build a partnership with Liberia? for Liberia, with Liberians? Yes, we can do that. And that starts right here. I focus on Liberia by bringing all Liberians together to have a conversation as to how we move Liberia forward. My name is Anthony C. Some call me the troublemaker, but I'm not. I'm the guy who asks the hard questions so that we can have a Liberia that can be that land we can all be proud of, that land of glorious liberty by God's command. Thank you and bye-bye. Our son, we are all Liberians, closest us. Bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our